What if every battle you're facing today is not a setback, but a setup for the biggest blessing of your life? What if the storms and the closed doors aren't signs that God has forgotten you, but proof that He's working behind the scenes on something far greater than you can imagine? Imagine realizing that the confusion, the waiting, and the unexpected shifts are heaven's way of preparing you for a destiny so powerful, it demands a stronger version of you first. Welcome to a divine revelation. When God is about to elevate you, your world may shake, but only so He can rebuild you stronger, wiser, and ready for the greatness ahead. When God gives something big, be ready for a greater purpose. Billy Graham, YouTube. When God is about to do something great in your life, the first thing you'll notice is that the battle gets tougher. Challenges seem to multiply overnight, just when you think you're making progress. Something comes along to push you back. You may feel like you're doing everything right, praying, believing, staying faithful. But instead of seeing immediate breakthroughs, you face resistance like never before. And I want you to know that this is not a coincidence. You see, before God takes you to a new level, there is always a season of intense testing. It's like a refining fire. The enemy doesn't fight people who aren't a music threat. The moment you start walking into the destiny God has prepared for you, opposition arises. Look at the stories throughout the Bible. Before David could sit on the throne, he had to run for his life. Before Joseph could step into his position of power, he was betrayed, enslaved, and imprisoned. Before Jesus fulfilled his ultimate mission, he was tempted, rejected, and crucified. Maybe right now, you feel like everything is going wrong. The finances are tight. The job isn't working out. Relationships are under pressure. Prayers seem to go unanswered. But let me tell you something. The enemy wouldn't be attacking you this hard if you weren't on the brink of something big. The opposition is often the clearest sign that promotion is near. Think about it. When a seed is planted in the ground, it goes through darkness before it ever breaks through the soil. It gets buried, it's pressed down, it's hidden. But what's happening in that hidden place? Growth, development, transformation, and when the time is right, the seed doesn't stay buried. It pushes through it, reaches for the sunlight, and soon it becomes something greater than what it was before. That's exactly what happens in our spiritual lives. Some of you are in that dark place right now. You feel buried under the weight of your struggles. But I want you to hear me. You are not buried. You are planted. And when you are planted in the right soil, when you remain in God's Word, when you stand on His promises, when you trust Him even, when you don't understand, you will break through. You will step into the blessings He has prepared for you. The problem is, too many people give up in the middle of the process. They see the difficulty and think, maybe this isn't meant for me. They get discouraged and walk away right before the breakthrough. But you can't allow temporary struggles to make you forfeit a permanent blessing. You've got to hold on. You've got to push through. Because the very thing that feels like it's breaking you is often the thing that's making you. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're wondering why things seem to be falling apart, let me encourage you, God is still in control. He's not surprised by what you're going through. He's not caught off guard by the delays, the disappointments, the detours. In fact, He's using them. He's strengthening your faith. He's sharpening your character. He's preparing you for what's next. I remember a time in my own life when I faced obstacles that seemed impossible to overcome. It felt like the harder I prayed, the tougher things got. But looking back, I realized that was the season when God was stretching me, teaching me to rely on Him in ways I never had before. And when the breakthrough finally came, I was stronger, I was wiser, I was ready for the blessing He had in store. So don't be discouraged by the difficulty. Don't let the trials make you question God's plan. Instead, recognize that the struggle is often proof that something greater is coming. The pressure you're feeling, that's preparation. The opposition you're facing, that's confirmation. The enemy sees what's ahead, and he's trying to stop you before you get there. But he cannot stop what God has ordained. This is not the time to retreat. This is not the time to give in to doubt. This is the time to stand firm. Because if you could see what God is about to do, you wouldn't worry for another second. If you could see the doors He's about to open, the opportunities He's about to bring, the blessings He's about to release, you would hold on with everything you've got. So I came to tell somebody today, don't quit. Now the battle may be fierce, but the victory is already promised. The struggle may be real, but so is the breakthrough. You may feel surrounded by obstacles, but you are also surrounded by grace. And when the time is right, when the season has come, when God has finished what He's doing in you, nothing and no one will be able to stop what He has set in motion. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. Hold on. Stay faithful. Keep trusting, because what's coming is greater than anything you've ever imagined. Sometimes in life, things don't go the way we planned. You set your heart on a certain path thinking everything is lining up, and then suddenly the door closes. An opportunity slips away, a relationship falls apart. The job you thought was secure disappears overnight, and you're left wondering, God, what is happening? Why is everything falling apart when I've been trusting you? But let me tell you something. When God is about to give you something big, He often disrupts your plans first, not to harm you, not to punish you, but to position you. Because sometimes we get so attached to where we are that we don't see where God is trying to take us. We hold on to what's comfortable, what's familiar, what makes sense in our own understanding. But God sees the bigger picture. He knows that what looks like a setback is actually a setup. Think about Moses. He was raised in Pharaoh's palace with all the privileges of royalty. But one moment of crisis, one act that forced him into exile, completely changed the course of his life. He probably thought his life was over, but that disruption was God's way of positioning him for His true purpose. Because if Moses had stayed in the palace, he would have never led Israel out of Egypt. If he had clung to what was familiar, he would have missed what was greater. Some of you are in that place right now. God has allowed certain things to shift in your life. The people you thought would always be there have walked away. The plans you were certain about have unraveled. But I want you to hear me today. God is not punishing you. He is positioning you. That disruption is not the end. It's the beginning of something greater. I remember talking to someone who had their dream job lined up. Everything seemed perfect. Until out of nowhere, the company went in a different direction. They lost the opportunity. At first, they were devastated. They couldn't understand why God would allow something they had prayed for to slip through their fingers. But months later, a new door opened, one they never saw coming. A position that was better, with greater influence, greater provision, greater purpose. And they realized that if God hadn't shut the first door, they would have settled for something less than what He had in store. How often do we pray for God's will, but then get frustrated when He takes us in a direction we didn't expect? We say, "God, I trust you." But when He shifts things, we panic. We try to hold on to what's comfortable. We question why things are changing. But let me remind you, God is not in the business of making your life worse. He is leading you into something better, and sometimes He has to remove certain things to make room for the blessing He has prepared. Look at the disciples. They spent 3 years walking with Jesus, seeing miracles, hearing His teachings, feeling secure in His presence. But then everything changed. He was crucified. Their world was turned upside down. It felt like all hope was lost. But what they didn't realize was that the greatest victory was unfolding. The disruption of the cross was necessary for the resurrection. What seemed like devastation was actually the doorway to salvation. And I came to tell someone today, the disruption in your life is not the end of your story. The closed doors, the unexpected detours, the people who walked away, none of it is random. God is shifting things because He is preparing you for something greater. The job you lost, the relationship that didn't work out, the opportunity that passed you by. If it was meant for you, nothing could have taken it away. And if it wasn't meant for you, then no amount of effort could have made it stay. You have to trust that God knows what He's doing. You have to believe that He sees what you cannot see. Some of the greatest blessings in your life will come through the doors. God closes, some of the most important breakthroughs will happen because He directed your steps. So instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" start asking God, "What are you making room for?" Instead of fighting against the change, lean into it. Trust that if He allowed something to be removed, He is preparing something better in its place. Trust that the disruption is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to develop you. There are moments in life when God has to shake things up to get you where you're supposed to be. Because left on our own, we'd stay in places too small for what He wants to do. We'd settle for less than His best. But God loves you too much to let you miss out on what He has planned. So if you're in a season of unexpected music change, don't lose heart. If things feel uncertain, don't be afraid. God is still in control. He is still working. And when the time is right, you will see that every disruption was a divine setup for something greater than you ever imagined. What's ahead is bigger than what you've left behind. Trust Him, stay faithful, because what's coming is greater than what you could have planned for yourself. When God is getting ready to do something big in your life, you'll notice a shift deep within your spirit. It's not something external, it's something internal. You begin to feel different. Your appetite for certain things changes the things that used to entertain you don't satisfy you anymore. You find yourself drawn to God in a way you haven't before. You wake up in the morning with a stirring inside, an unexplainable urgency to pray, to seek Him, to get into His presence. That's not just you. being emotional. That's not just a random feeling. That's God pulling you closer. That's the Holy Spirit preparing you for something greater. Because before God moves on the outside, He always starts by moving on the inside. Before He shifts your circumstances, He shifts your heart. Maybe you've noticed that lately you're more aware of His presence. You feel convicted about things that never used to bother you before. You're hearing His voice more clearly. That's not by accident. That's God drawing you in, because He knows that what He's about to give you requires a new level of spiritual sensitivity. It requires a greater level of discernment. It requires you to be in tune with His voice. Like never before. Look at Moses. He didn't just wake up one day and decide to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. No, before the assignment came, there was a burning bush experience. Before the calling was revealed, there was an encounter with God. And in that moment, everything changed. His doubts, his fears, his past, none of that mattered anymore. Because when you get into the presence of God, when you truly hear His voice, it awakens something inside you that nothing else in this world can satisfy. Some of you have been feeling that stirring. You can't explain it, but you know something is shifting. You know you find yourself longing to spend more time with God. You're craving His presence in a way you never have before. That's because He is preparing you. He is stretching you. He is awakening your spirit so that when the opportunity comes, you won't hesitate. When the door opens, you'll be ready to step through it. But here's the thing. Whenever God is about to do something great in your life, distractions will come. The enemy will do everything he can to pull you away, to keep you too busy, too tired, too overwhelmed to pray. He will send unnecessary conflicts, unnecessary stress, unnecessary worries to steal your focus. Because he knows that the moment you fully align yourself with God, there's nothing that can stop what He has planned for you. This is why now, more than ever, you have to protect your time with God. You have to guard your heart. You have to be intentional about what you allow into your spirit. Because the closer you get to your breakthrough, the more distractions will try to pull you off. Of course, think about Jesus before He started His ministry. He didn't just step out and start preaching. Nope, before the miracles, before the teachings, before the crowds, He spent 40 days in the wilderness, fasting and praying, and what happened? The enemy came. He tried to tempt Him, tried to distract Him, tried to get Him to step outside of God's will. But Jesus didn't give in. He stayed focused. He knew that the preparation was necessary for what was coming next. And that's where some of you are right now. You're in the preparation phase. God is sharpening your spiritual senses. He is drawing you closer. But if you're not careful, you'll mistake this season for a burden. Instead of a blessing, you'll get frustrated because things aren't happening as fast as you want them to. You'll get impatient because you feel like you're ready now. But let me tell you something. God is never in a hurry, but He is always on time. If He's calling you deeper, it's because He's preparing you for something you can't yet see. Don't rush the process, lean into it. If He's waking you up in the middle of the night to pray, don't ignore it. If He's leading you to fast, don't brush it off. If He's convicting you about things you used to overlook, don't resist it. That's not just random. That's preparation. That's God making sure that when the blessing comes, you won't mishandle it. When the promotion comes, you'll be able to sustain it. When the opportunity comes, you'll walk into it with confidence, not confusion. I don't know who this is for, but you've been feeling like you're in a strange season. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you know something is different. Let me tell you, you're not crazy. You're not imagining things. God is getting ready to shift things in your life, and He needs you to be ready. He needs your ears tuned to His voice. He needs your heart fully surrendered. He needs you to trust Him even when you don't understand the process. Because what's coming is bigger than what you've been praying for. It's greater than what you've imagined. And when the time is right, you won't have to chase after it. It will come to you. Stay close to Him. Stay sensitive to His voice. Because He is about to do something in your life that will change everything. When God is about to bless you with something big, one of the clearest signs is that certain people will start to fall away from your life. Won't always be dramatic. Sometimes people just start fading. The conversations that used to flow easily become strained. The connection that once felt strong begins to weaken. And other times it happens in a way that cuts deep: betrayal, misunderstanding, distance you never saw coming. It's painful when people you trusted walk away. It hurts when those you thought would always be by your side suddenly change, and if you're not careful, you'll start to question yourself. You'll wonder if you did something wrong. You'll try to hold on to relationships that God is trying to remove. But let me tell you something. When God is taking you to a new level, not everyone can go with you. You see, we often pray for elevation, for breakthrough, for God to open new doors. But we don't always realize that when He does, it also means separation. There are people in your life right now who were good for your last season, but can't handle where God is taking you. Next, there are people who were part of your process, but can't be part of your promise. And when God starts to remove them, it's not rejection, it's protection. Look at Joseph. He had a dream, a vision from God about his future. But the moment he shared it, his own brothers turned against him. They threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery, and tried to destroy what God had placed in him. Now Joseph could have spent years being bitter. He could have wasted his time trying to win back the approval of people who never truly supported him. But he didn't. He kept moving forward. He trusted that if God allowed certain people to turn on him, it was only because He had something greater ahead. Some of you are dealing with a painful separation. Right now, maybe it's a friendship that ended unexpectedly. Maybe it's someone you loved who betrayed. Maybe you feel like people are suddenly distancing themselves for no reason. But let me tell you, there is a reason God sees what you can't see. He hears conversations you were never meant to hear. He knows who is truly for you and who is just pretending. And when He removes someone, it's because He knows they cannot handle the blessing He's about to release in your life. Think about this. Have you ever seen a rocket launch? When that rocket takes off, it has boosters attached to help it rise. But at a certain altitude, those boosters fall away. Not because they were bad, but because they were only meant to take it so far. If the rocket tried to hold on to them, it wouldn't be able to reach its full potential. That's exactly what happens. In our lives, some people were only meant to take you so far. They were part of your journey, but they were never meant to be part of your destination. But here's the challenge. Letting go isn't easy. Sometimes we try to hold on to relationships that have already expired. We keep going back to people who keep hurting us, trying to force connections that no longer fit. We get upset when certain friends stop calling, when certain people don't support us like they used to. But what if that's God's way of telling you, you don't need them for where I'm taking you? What if their absence is actually a blessing? In disguise, Jesus understood this. During his ministry, he had crowds follow him. People celebrated him, praised him, wanted to be near him. But the moment things got tough, the moment the cross came into view, many of those same people walked away. And even among his disciples, one betrayed him, another denied him, and most of them scattered in his darkest moment. But Jesus didn't chase after them. He didn't waste time trying to convince people to stay, because he knew that his destiny wasn't tied to those who left, and neither is yours. The people who walked away were never meant to stay. The ones who betrayed you were never part of God's final plan. And the ones who distanced themselves were simply making room for the right people to come in. So stop crying over who left. Stop trying to force what God has already removed. Stop being bitter over people who couldn't handle your next level. If they were meant to be in your future, they would still be in your present trust that God knows what he's doing. Because when God is about to give you something big, he will clear out the people who can't handle it. He will expose hidden motives. He will reveal who was truly for you and who was only there for what they could get. And when he does, don't fight it. Let them go. Because what's ahead of you is too great to be slowed down by people who were never meant to go the distance. Keep your eyes on God. Keep walking forward, because the right people, the ones who truly belong in your next season, will meet you there when God is about to give you something big. One of the most undeniable signs is that the battles in your life suddenly intensify. The attacks come from every direction. Things that were once steady start to shake. You face opposition like never before. And if you're not careful, you might start to think, maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I missed a step. Why is everything getting harder when I've been doing my best to follow God? But let me tell you something. When the enemy knows that God is about to elevate you, he will do everything he can to stop you before you get there. He'll try to distract you. He'll try to discourage you. He'll try to wear you down so that you give up before the breakthrough comes. Because he can't take what God has for you, but he can try to convince you to walk away from it. Some of you are in that season right now. You've been fighting battles that you never saw coming. You've been dealing with pressure that feels overwhelming. Maybe it's in your finances. Just when you thought you were getting ahead, something unexpected hits. Maybe it's in your health. Just when you were believing for better days, you get a report that shakes you. Maybe it's in your family relationships that used to be strong are suddenly under attack, and you're asking God why. Now why all at once? But hear me, this battle is not a sign that you're losing. It's a sign that you're closer than ever to your breakthrough. The enemy doesn't waste his energy attacking people who aren't a threat. He only fights those who are carrying something powerful. And if the attacks have been increasing, that means your blessing is even bigger than you realize. Look at David before he ever stepped into his destiny. As king, he had to face Goliath before he ever sat on the throne. He had to spend years running from Saul, fighting battles he never asked for. But what if David had given up? What if he had let the weight of the struggle convince him that maybe he wasn't called after all? He would have missed out on the promise some of you are standing. Right where David stood, you're facing giants' opposition that seems too big, challenges that make you question if you have what it takes. But don't let the pressure make you forget the promise. If God has called you, He has already equipped you. If He has led you to this moment, He will give you the strength to walk through it. Every great move of God is preceded by opposition. When the Israelites were on the edge of the promised land, the first thing they saw was not open doors, it was walls. Jericho stood in the way, but those walls weren't proof that they were in the wrong place. They were proof that they were exactly where God wanted them to be. And when they obeyed, when they stayed faithful, those walls came crashing down. And that's what's going to happen in your life. The walls that seem immovable, the opposition that feels relentless, it's all coming down, but you can't quit now. You can't let temporary resistance make you forfeit permanent blessings. The enemy knows that if you keep going, if you keep praying, if you keep standing in faith, nothing will be able to stop what God has set in motion. This is why, now more than ever, you have to stay anchored in the Word. You have to remind yourself daily of what God has spoken over your life, because if you're not careful, the battle will make you forget the blessing, the pressure will make you forget the promise. But you have to keep your eyes on what God said, not what the enemy is trying to do. Jesus Himself faced opposition before stepping into His full purpose, before the cross. There was a garden, a moment of intense battle, not just physically, but spiritually, the weight of what was ahead pressed down on Him. The enemy wanted Him to quit before He ever reached the resurrection. But He didn't give in. He surrendered to the Father's plan, knowing that the battle was necessary for the victory that was coming. And that's where you are right now. You're in the battle, before the breakthrough, the pressure, before the promise, the resistance before the release. But if you hold on, if you refuse to give up, if you stand firm in faith, you will see God move in ways you never imagined. Because what's coming is greater than what's behind you, and no attack, no opposition, no battle can stop what God has already set in motion. Stay strong, you are closer than you think. When God is about to give you something big, you will. Notice that your faith is being stretched in ways it never has before. It won't always feel comfortable. In fact, sometimes it will feel like you're walking in the dark, like you're being asked to take steps without knowing where they lead everything. You will want to have control, to see the full picture before you move. But God doesn't work that way. He calls you to trust Him beyond what you can see, beyond what makes sense, beyond what feels safe. Faith is easy when everything is going according to plan, when the doors open effortlessly, when the resources are in place, when the path is clear. It's easy to say, I trust God. But real faith is tested in uncertainty. It's tested when God says, step out, but doesn't show you the full staircase. It's tested when the promise looks impossible, when the dream looks too big, when the odds seem stacked against you. That's when you have to decide, will you walk by faith, or will you wait until you have all the answers? Abraham had to make that choice. God told him to leave his homeland, to go to a place he had never seen, without a map, without a plan, just a word from the Lord. And he went not because he had all the details, but because he had faith in the one who called him. And because of that faith, he became the father of many nations. But what if he had hesitated? What if he had said, "God, I need more confirmation. I need more proof"? He would have missed out on the blessing some of you are in that place. Right now, God has given you a vision, a dream, a calling, but He hasn't given you all the details. He's asking you to trust Him, to take the step before you see the provision to believe, before you see the breakthrough and everything. You want to wait until it feels safe, until you have a guarantee. But faith doesn't work like that. Faith moves. First, faith obeys before it understands. Faith steps out when it doesn't make sense. Look at Peter when Jesus called him out onto the water. He had a choice. He could stay in the boat where it was comfortable, where it was safe, or he could step out onto something he had never walked on before. And for a moment, he walked for a moment. He did the impossible, not because the water had changed, but because his faith was in the one who called him. But then he looked around, he saw the wind, the waves, the impossibility of what he was doing, and he started to sink. And that's what happens when we take our eyes off God and start looking at our circumstances. That's what happens when we let fear speak louder than faith. But even in that moment, Jesus reached out, pulled him up, and reminded him, "Why did you doubt?" Some of you have been called to step out of the boat you've been given. A word from God, and deep down, you know what you're supposed to do. But fear has been whispering, "What if it doesn't work? What if you fail? What if you sink?" And that fear is keeping you stuck in a place you were never meant to stay. But let me tell you, if God called you, He will sustain you. If He told you to move, He has already made the way, the resources you need, the doors that need to open, the connections you haven't even thought of yet. They are already in place, but you won't see them from the boat. You won't see them if you stay where it's safe. You have to step out. You have to trust. Because what God is about to do in your life requires a new level of faith. The size of the blessing is connected to the size of the trust He's asking you for. If it were easy, it wouldn't require faith. If you could figure it all out on your own, you wouldn't need to depend on Him. But God isn't calling you to a life of predictability. He's calling you to a life of faith, to a life where you trust Him even when you don't understand, even when you can't see the whole picture, even when it feels like you're stepping underwater. And here's the truth: if you take that step, you won't sink it. Might feel uncertain. It might feel uncomfortable, but you will not fail because God upholds those who trust in Him. He doesn't let His children fall. He is not a man that He should lie. If He said it, He will do it. So don't let fear keep you from your destiny. Don't let doubt talk you out of your promise. Don't let uncertainty keep you in a place you've outgrown. Step out, trust Him. Because what's on the other side of your faith is greater than anything you could ever imagine. The seasons of waiting, of disruption, of hidden battles, they are not wasted seasons. They are sacred training grounds where your faith is strengthened, your heart is refined, and your spirit is prepared. Before God unfolds the miracle, He molds the vessel. Before the breakthrough comes, He builds the character that can carry it. So don't despise the struggle. Don't fear the shift. Don't question the closed doors. Embrace them, because they are your evidence that heaven is moving on your behalf. What's ahead of you is not ordinary. It's extraordinary, and you are being perfectly positioned for it.